Now, let's see the deductions from the fundamental law. We discussed the fundamental law earlier, but just to make it clear, this was the fundamental law, right? Cosine of alpha minus beta is equal to cosine alpha cosine beta plus sine alpha sine beta. Fairly simple. Now this is the first deduction, that cosine pi by 2 plus alpha is equal to negative sine alpha. Why do we get this? Well, input this in the fundamental law. So this would become basically cosine alpha minus negative pi by 2, right? Because it's alpha plus pi by 2, and over here it's also alpha plus pi by 2 once you multiply these two negative signs, right? So in this particular case, if you compare it with the fundamental law, beta over here is negative pi by 2, right? So this becomes cosine alpha into cosine negative pi by 2 plus sine alpha into sine negative pi by 2, right? Let's see this term first. Now always remember the absolute first rule when doing these questions. Draw the graph. It is very important. So let's first draw the graph of the cosine function. If you remember, the graph of the cosine function is something like this, right? Since we're dealing with the negative axis as well, the graph of the cosine function looks like this. Don't mind my drawing, but still, it is at this point, it is equal at this point pi by 2, and this is also the point negative pi by 2, and this is the point at 0 in which the value of the cosine function is basically 1. So you can see that at negative pi by 2 the value is 0. The value of the cosine function is 0. So this just becomes cosine alpha into 0. So you can cut this entire thing out because it becomes 0. Now you're left with this, the sine alpha into sine pi by 2. What is sine pi by 2? For that you need to draw the graph of the sine function, right? So this is sine theta on the y-axis and theta on the x-axis. And so now draw the graph. The graph looks something like this. Right? Let me just cut that off. It's not really a good drawing. My bad. But the sine function looks something like this on the positive theta axis, and this is how it looks on the negative theta axis. Now you can see over here, this is the point negative pi by 2, and this is the point positive pi by 2. And at negative pi by 2, the value of the sine function is negative 1, as opposed to positive pi by 2, where the value is positive 1, right? So you can see we're dealing with negative pi by 2, sine negative pi by 2, and that is equal to negative 1. So hence, this entire thing becomes equal to negative 1 into sine alpha, which is basically equal to negative sine alpha, and that's how you got this. And similarly, when you apply the fundamental law over here, you get sine beta. When you apply it on sine pi by 2 plus alpha, you get cos alpha. And basically, you need to convert the cos function into the sine function to be able to get this. And we have that over here. Once you do the conversions from the fundamental law into sine, you get this. So basically sine alpha plus beta is equal to sine alpha cos beta plus cos alpha sine beta. Sine alpha minus beta is equal to sine alpha cos beta minus cos alpha sine beta. Okay, you can memorize these if you want to make things quicker, but just know the actual logic behind this. And you can apply the fundamental law as well, because tan alpha plus beta is equal to, obviously it's equal to sine alpha plus beta over cos alpha plus beta, right? And the simple thing is that once you actually perform all the conversions and apply the identities on both of these, you eventually end up with this. Now, in this particular case, the derivation is slightly lengthy, right? So it's just, if you want to do it on your own, you can, but just it's easier to actually memorize this entire thing, that because this is just a little bit more lengthy. And again, if you have the negative sign between alpha and beta, the only difference is that these signs are inverted, right? And that's really about it.